This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
At the last meeting, Madame Sinclair Desgagnés gave notice of the following motion: that the committee requests that the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics forward to the committee all documents and correspondence received from Ms. Pascale Fournier, ex-president and CEO of the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation. So why don't I turn to you, Madame Sinclair Desgagnés, if you'd like to address this, and we can discuss it and see if we can come to any consensus. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. It has been called to our attention that the Ethics Committee, after meeting with Madame Pascale Fournier, had received documents which were of great interest to them in the study on foreign interference, more specifically on management of the Trudeau Foundation. What happened is that there was a lot of information submitted at that time. The Ethics Committee was looking at foreign interference generally, but it would be more appropriate for the Public Accounts Committee to look at the management process of an organization which received public funding, such as the case with the Trudeau Foundation. And so we've tabled this motion.
Just a simple question to our colleague. To what end? How is this going to benefit the work of this committee? How will this allow us to carry out our role as members of a committee that sit on the Audit Committee of Parliament, that have as a first obligation to review the reports of the Auditor General and then follow up with public servants in particular to understand what has been done to rectify challenges and problems that exist? I wouldn't want to blame, of course, my colleague for politicizing this committee. That's not what I'm saying, although others might point in that direction. I'm not sure. But I'm just struggling to see the overall goal here. What exactly is the aim in this motion when other committees are very well placed and are looking at exactly the same thing?
So what would this do, Mr. Fragascatos? It would enable us to do our job. In other words, have an in-depth study on the way in which an organization receiving public funding is managed. In the documents, there is written evidence of certain facts that have been related. And here I answer Ms. Shanahan's questions. These documents represent written evidence. It's not about he said, she said. We have written evidence, and we will obtain the answers that we wish to obtain and that we have asked witnesses. So if witnesses contradict themselves, well, let's look for evidence. Let's look at what's written in the emails and in the documents which have been provided. That's evidence, and that's what will enable us to do our work, which involves verifying what has happened and what continues to be happening at the Trudeau Foundation, because we have not yet received any valid conclusions. So the Public Accounts Committee has decided to undertake a study on the Trudeau Foundation. It is our duty to do this, and we will be able to do it. The public has a right to know. Thank you.
It's quite absurd to hear members of the government worry about spending time on this as a result of this motion. This motion is a request for documents that will aid us in our study of something this committee has already agreed to study, and that members opposite eventually voted in favor of agreeing to study. What is taking time is needless ongoing debate on this motion. If these documents have already been given to another committee, and we feel, and even one member feels that looking at these documents would be useful for this committee as well, I don't know why we wouldn't just easily say yes to that. And again, if people are concerned about the time this is taking, requesting the document isn't taking any time, except insofar as it's taking time because members of the Liberal caucus continue to try to delay the vital accountability work that we're trying to do as it relates to the Trudeau Foundation. We need to get to the bottom of what happened to the Trudeau Foundation. We saw a filibuster last week on Mr. McCauley's motion, and then a move to adjourn debate requesting documents from CRA. We're just trying to get the documents that will allow us to do our work and find out what happened to the Trudeau Foundation. And it is mighty suspicious that we see continuing efforts to find excuses to not get these documents. But it's particularly odd, particularly strange that the government says, "Oh, we shouldn't. Let's spend a long time talking about this motion to determine if we actually have time to do this." We're just requesting documents for a study that we've already agreed to do.
I just wanted to answer my colleague, Mr. Genuis, who is still fairly new to this committee, that the way this committee works is by consensus. That is really the best way to work. And Mr. McCauley knows this to be true. And I think it's because we're acting on behalf of all Canadians, of all parliamentarians. It is supposed to be a committee that is nonpartisan, that is objective, and where we're looking at verified reports, and where, frankly, our work is to, because sometimes documents and accounting statements and so on don't get amplified the way that they should, but where we are able as a committee to explore and where we have in this committee taken the committee in a direction which I find very laudable, and that is studying the Environment Commissioner's report, which come under the auspices of the Auditor General, and where we have been able to lift up those reports and amplify those very important findings and conclusion. And so that is why it's important for us to have these discussions, because if we're going to take public accounts in a radically different direction, I would say that to my colleagues that hope to form government one day, you will be saddled with the consequences of that, and I don't think it's a very positive direction for anyone that is represented here today. So that is why I think the discussion is important. It just seems like a laundry list to me of what we're asking for, doubling of work, spilling into other mandates, and quite frankly, I have to question the motives of some members here, and I don't like to be in that position because it has not been my position on this committee in the past. Thank you.
Mr. McCauley, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'll just say that the three of us do support this motion. I think it's important for transparency. To Ms. Shanahan's comment, when we are in government, I do hope we are saddled with committees that are seeking openness and transparency and justice for taxpayers' dollars. This idea that consensus seems to be do it the Liberal way unless it's consensus. Do what we say unless it's not consensus. Consensus doesn't mean just what the Liberal government wants or wants to shut down. Consensus, I think, if we go to a vote, you'll see that 5 of the members on this side from 3 parties support this motion. It's ridiculous to say that the government, that it's duplicating work. This is a very important issue we're dealing with right now, and expands into other areas that we're seeing covered up by this government. I think it's offensive to say that there's ulterior motives from our colleague from the Bloc. Her only motive I've seen from the day I've met her is openness and transparency of taxpayers' dollars. And coming from a Conservative, I can't think of higher praise I can say to another member of this House is we want openness and we want to see value for money spent. So we fully support this motion. I thank her for bringing it forward and continuing to support it.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, could you call the vote, please?
Mr. Genuis.
In favor.
Mr. Cram.
In favor.
Mr. McCauley.
Yes, please.
Madame Sinclair de Gagny.
Oui.
Mr. Desjardins.
Yes.
Ms. Bradford.
Opposed.
Mr. Fragiskatos. Ms. Shanahan.
No.
Mr. Sidhu.
Against.
Ms. Yip.
No.
Yeas pour 5, nays contre 5.
I'll cast my vote in favor of Madame Sinclair de Gagny's motion. Thank you.